Hi, everybody. Wow. Well, this is almost the first time I've used my voice today. Welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pinard, and you're on BookTube. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going live a little early, so I'm just gonna chat. It's gonna be a bit of a longer video today, so wanted to get a little jump start. I have people filter in if they get notifications. Um, I don't do that, but I'm on YouTube so much that I don't really think it's needed. Hi. We got a little clingy monster this morning, so perhaps we'll hear from him. What are we doing today? We're doing our March TBR. Happy March 1st, everybody. So there's also a big announcement, which if you're on Instagram, you might have peeped already. But mostly I'm going to be talking about plans for March. So, readathons. Readathons and March. If you're a regular on the channel, you probably already know that I had a readathon. I ran a readathon last March, but it is so crowded. It is such a crowded space. I have booted mine over to May so that it doesn't have to compete with so many others. So that is May of the Moderns, and we will be hearing more about that anon. But for the moment, we're going to talk about readathons in March. And I am only doing one. Can you guess from my thumbnail which one that might be? It's the lovely JC. Thanks for stopping by, JC. It's the Irish Readathon. So I know there's middle grade March. I know there's March Mystery Madness. I know there's March of the Mammoths. I know there's Her Story. I know there's more. But I think I'm going to let myself do a little bit more mood reading because there's a lot on the business side and the writing side going on. So the reading side is going to have to take a back seat this month. I did a lot of reading for BookTube last month, so I think it's time to, shift those things around the triangle. Let someone else have a chance on the swings, if you will. So, Irish Readathon. Yes, I'm going to be tracking it on Storygraph. Oh, yeah. I wanted to point out to people. So the February readathons that I was participating in, namely the Missy Elliott Readathon with Cache Warren and Britt Riderly, and I think Bree was helping sponsor that, maybe? They're like my trio of lovely goddesses over there. I finished that one. 7 out of 7 prompts. So I obviously was helped by the fact that I had put on my own little readathon that fit into theirs, hand in glove. I was helping run, co-hosting, whatever you want to call it, the Black Authortuber Readathon, which meant we put a bunch of names of people who are Black authors on YouTube who have books, short stories in all genres, all levels, categories, whatever, and try to read them alone, together, and we're going to be putting up our buddy read discussions. A few of them are already up, and that's on a playlist on my channel, and more will be coming up soon. And we're going to be having a party. So there's a description link. There's a link in the description to the party on March 15th. So hopefully we'll get most of the people who are doing the readathon at that time in the evening and be able to talk about all the books and throw out those names and support those creators and just zhuzh them up, right? Give them some glam, if you will. So that'll be fun. So that was the February one, and I tracked it on Storygraph. So if you don't know about Storygraph, check it out. Barrett's here. Barrett put a reminder on because he's a sweetheart. Finishing up a meeting, but here. Nice to see you. Lovely. We're talking about March readathons. And I haven't even dived into the books yet because this is going to be a very chatty video. Apologize in advance. Ongoing things, just to remind people, I am offering StreamYard streaming assistance. So if you are looking for a way to level up your StreamYard game, if you're unsure about all the toggles and nozzles and jigs and what have you, I'm here to help. I've been working on this for about 2 years and have had to do a lot of looking up stuff in the help chat. So if you want someone to help you with that, I'm doing Sundays on StreamYard. There's a link in the description that is just a sign-up sheet saying what you're interested in and what level you're at so I can figure out what would be best if you want to walk through that lich gate together, if you will. So that is my ongoing offering. And let's start with the books. So as I said, limited reading ambition this month. But what have we got? Irish Readathon. This is a book that I have been waiting to read for months and months and months and months. It's called The Tainted by Cauvery Madhavan. I think I'm saying that right. And it's been recommended by the Irish Readathon host, Aoife, and so is my other one. It's a historical fiction, but I just realized like 10 minutes ago that it's also a dual timeline, which bonus. Anita's here. Hello, Anita. Welcome. So here's the blurb. It's spring 1920 in the small military town of Nandagiri in southeast India. Colonel Aylmer, the commander of the Royal Irish Kildare Rangers, is in charge. Everyone in Nandagiri knows their place and the part they were born to play, with one exception. The local Anglo-Indians, tainted by their mixed blood, belong nowhere. When news of the Black and Tans' atrocities back in Ireland reaches the troops in India, even their priest cannot cool the men's hot-headed rage. Politics vie with passion as Private Michael Flaherty pays court to Rose, Mrs. Aylmer's Anglo-Indian maid. Only the arrival of Colonel Aylmer's grandson, Richard, some 60 years later, will set off the reckoning. And that's the part I didn't realize, the last sentence of the blurb. So I knew that this was going to have to do with historical time period, the independence of, free Irish state, and the politics of the British Empire and the different people struggling to be free and self-determination. And so this is really fascinating to me because I have this like niggling idea in the back of my mind about the Scots being in Northern Ireland and how those tensions sort of rubbed up against each other. So it's kind of a similar thing. So I'm sort of afraid, but also really excited to read this. And I'll be buddy reading it with Maria from MH Books, who lives in Dublin and has a wonderful channel. So there we go. We've been meaning to do this for like 3 different months, and this is like the 4th time we're trying, which is fine. So very excited to read this for the Irish Readathon, historical fiction. It satisfies several prompts for them and fits right in for me. We got a lot of hellos in the chat, so welcome everybody. So glad to see you here. Oh, I had a funny little question. Let me pop it in here. Give me your best underrated word of this week, because I thought of one and I thought, I wonder what other words people have pop into their heads and go, I wish I used this more in common speech. Mine was redolent. Redolent, as in the air was redolent with spices, which is like the most common hack of a way to use it. But that's what I'll give as an example because people will get it, I think, the most easily. Okay, the other book for the Irish Readathon, a booktube darling called A Ghost in the Throat by Doreen Negrifa. I think that's how you pronounce that. That's my best Gaelic pronunciation, but Scots Gaelic, not Irish Gaelic. So this I didn't realize was nonfiction until a few weeks ago. It's like a memoir, but written in a very literary way. So let's see. So I'm very in the dark about this because I thought it was fiction, but it doesn't sound like it. I'll read you the blurb. Ooh, JC's got a good one. Expeditiously. I love it. I love it. Expeditiously. Okay, so A Ghost in the Throat. When we first met, I was a child and she had been dead for centuries. So like the tagline, the big print. On discovering her murdered husband's body, an 18th century Irish noblewoman drinks handfuls of his blood and composes an extraordinary lament. Ellen du Niconnell's poem travels through the centuries, finding its way to a new mother who has narrowly avoided her own fatal tragedy. When she realizes that the literature dedicated to the poem reduces Ellen Du's life to flimsy sketches, she wants more. The details of the poet's girlhood and old age, her unique rages, joys, sorrows, and desires, the shape of her days, and site of her final place of rest. What follows is an adventure in which Doreen Negrifa sets out to discover Ellen Du's erased life, and in doing so discovers her own. Okay. This is the first time I'm reading that sleeve copy, can you tell? So it's nonfiction because it's someone doing research into the past and discovering more about themselves, which is lovely. So Brian at Bookish has read this. Aoife has read and recommended, and she's the reason I bought this. I bought this from across the sea, which I don't normally do, but yeah, I'm very excited about this, and I'm thinking it'll be a 5-star read. I hate saying that, but yeah, that's where we are. Nia's here. Hello, Nia, Vixen of Fiction. Oh, and Nita's got a good one. Effervescence. Effervescence. It almost makes like the back of my nose want to bubble because I feel the effervescence of saying it. Yeah. Nia says, was about to watch your interview, saw that you were live. Excellent. Come to the channel and you see what YouTube pops up. Lovely. So I'm talking about March Readathons, Irish Readathon. I've got a little bonus question scrolling across there. And those are my first 2 books, which I'm very excited to read, which satisfy all the prompts for the readathon except a children's book and a Northern Ireland book. So we're still working on those. But, you know, you only have to read 1 book to participate in the readathon, as many people are saying, trying to do several of them in March. You can just pick and choose and feel like you're going to participate and get a little bit of each, and variety is the spice of life. Your life could be redolent with variety if you wanted to participate in multiple readathons. Okay, that was a bad one. So I'll be popping those in the description after I finish. What about other books? So I've got other Irish books, but none of them fit the prompts. So I'll show you, because before I was obsessed with Scotland, I was obsessed with Ireland. I've got both in my background. So what have I compiled over the years, which I still haven't read? Brendan Behan's Confessions of an Irish Rebel. This has kind of given me beat poet vibes, because the 50s and 60s subject matter and the heated alleged masculine toxicity of the author. So I'm unsure about this one. If anyone knows about this book, let me know. I've tried like getting little bits from the blurb or from reviews, and it's not very successful. So tell me if you know anything about this book, please. Let's see. We've got this snuck in because I thought this might work for a children's book, because this is one that I got from an old job, Blodwen and the Guardians by David Wiseman. But it's more English/Welsh than it is Irish. Blodwen is the key tip-off, as are the other references in the first chapter, which I was kind of trying to hunt for names and references. So not Irish, darn it. And the writer's from Boston, so that doesn't count either. Then we've got something I've had since literally high school. This is an anthology called For the Love of Ireland, which I have not read front to back. Edited by Susan Cahill, a literary companion for readers and travelers, with some like famous old dead people, but also modern and contemporary, if you interpret those as separate things, writers. And I'm sure there's good stuff in here, but it's short fiction and I have to hunt for it. So I've never read this front to back. And yeah, it doesn't fit a prompt. So let me know if you've read it. On Anita's side of things, The Cooper's Wife is Missing, based on a true story ripped from the headlines. The Trials of Bridget Cleary. I don't know if anyone's read this, but March 15th, 1895, the Cooper's wife disappears from her cottage in rural County Tipperary. Strange and lurid rumors begin circulating, basically like murder mystery, maybe a cult thing. There's like a weird luminosity in this book, and I thought it was really cool, but then I never got around to reading it. So maybe these are the ones that are in my pile of possibilities, like Cousin says. This one I've also had for a while, like 5 years maybe. It's called The Keeners, not to be confused with The Keening. plug. But it is sort of an Irish associated word, so that's why I picked this up and was very interested right away. It's by Maura D. Shaw, and keeners are people who, well, one definition of a keener is a person who is paid to ululate at a funeral, to cry out and express mournful sorrow at a funeral, to prove publicly that the person was well loved. And so that's sort of a ritual grief rite that they did in Ireland for part of their history. And so that's why it's got an Irish tinge to it when I think of it. And we got the Irish flag on the cover here. So I thought this would be good, and I haven't read it. You're taking you through a bookshelf tour, really. That's what we're doing here. This is my Irish closet book tour. A more recent acquisition, Confessions of a Pagan Nun by Kate Horsley. And this is cloistered in a stone cell at the monastery of St. Bridget, a 6th century Irish nun secretly records the memories of her pagan youth, interrupting her assigned task of transcribing Augustine and Patrick. So feminist icon fiction, but 6th century, so not my time period, but should be an interesting dip into history. And yeah, I've never read this author before, and it just seemed like a cute little book with a little beehive hut. So I don't know. Haven't gotten around to that. Finally, another one I thought might work for the children's fiction, but is not. He's much too flowery a writer. This is not for kids. The King of Elfland's Daughter by Lord Dunsany. This is a historic book. This is not historic fiction. This is someone writing, I think, around the beginning of the 20th century. He died in 1957. So yeah, beginning of the 20th century. This would work for May of the Moderns. Maybe I should save it for that one. But you know, fantasy, very early fantasy, sort of taking off of Arthurian legends, Celtic legends. So I guess I'll save that. It's got an introduction by Neil Gaiman. So yeah. So those are other books, pile of possibility books. Very exciting. Oh, Nia says we're doing C.S. Lewis for scripting the book. I'll see what else I can squeeze on my TBR. Awesome. Cooper's Wife sounds interesting. Yes. Yeah. It's more like the thriller vibe, like small town horror kind of vibe. So, and RK Stumbling Bear, Rachel is here. Hello, hello. I'll take the banner down, but if anyone has another underrated word I have loved, effervescent and expeditiously so far, well done. And other books. Other books for March include The Leftovers from February. Don't forget. So for those, I've got The Monsters, right? The CASTE by Isabel Wilkerson. Working my way through. I'm about halfway, and there's lots of tabs in this one. Very, very interesting. My Buddy Read with Valerie Geary and maybe Ella Mitchell. The Bookish Life of Nina Hill, we will be discussing on the 13th, I think, by Abbi Waxman. And so far, it's very funny, very absorbing, very implausible, but emotionally true. And so I'm enjoying that. This is a bookseller living in the Los Angeles area, discovering a branch of her family that she never knew existed. And she's kind of an off one, shall we say. So very, very interesting. And SEGU, which I've been working on since December. And, you know, I'm getting there. I'm past halfway. I haven't gotten a notification from Bria lately, so I don't know where she is on this either, but we're going our way through. Another monster. All right, so those are my leftovers. And what about my hungry bookworm? Hey, Julie. So what about this thing? How am I doing on this thing for March, right? Because I'm trying to like hit all these marks every month. So does the Irish Readathon fit into any of these? Well, there's no research book there, unless the Tainted could be fit into that. Ebook, I don't know. Maybe the indie, but I'll talk about that in a second. Audiobook, I just downloaded The Word is Murder by Anthony Horowitz, so I might dip a toe into the March Mystery Madness. I don't know. If anyone likes Anthony Horowitz, give me your vibe for his writing, because I'm a little afraid it's going to be too intellectual for me. So let me know. BIPOC author, Tainted is by Cauvery Madhavan, who was born in India and moved to Ireland. She's got a very interesting takes on her fiction. So I'm looking forward to that. Nonfiction, because I'm continuing with CASTE, we'll keep counting that. And Indie Pub. So the Indie Pub book, clear that out for a second. Totally thinks I'm organized. Thank you. I borrowed this from Melissa at Fully Booked. So there's that secret out. Indie Pub. Yes. So the one of the other book possibilities is that Joe Compton of Go Indie Now and I had the idea for the beginning of the year, first quarter, somewhere in there, to do an exchange buddy read where he knows a lot of indie books and I don't, and I know a lot of great, I don't know, other books that people have never heard of, queen of books you've never heard of. And so we thought we'd do a switch and then talk about the books. And so we sent each other lists and we picked out a book, but we never set a date. So I think this might work in March. We'll see. The one that I picked from his list was Strange Luck by A.I. Winters. And I think it's a paranormal thriller type vibe, paranormal romance maybe. So that could be good. And I think the one that he picked from my list was The Wilding by Benjamin Percy. And I think the ones that I sent him are more like mid-list authors. So people that aren't at the top of the charts or the headlines or the sales, but like really good names that we've seen on The Mighty Blaze, etc. And so I'm just looking for more people to talk to them about. So that would be pretty cool. So that would be my indie pub book. So that would cross off most of the things on my list. And like I said, gonna leave room for mood reading this month. What else? Announcement time. Okay, so thank you for coming by. Now you get treated to the announcement. I put it on Instagram and I have a new Patreon tier. So the Patreon tiers have been Bookish Mail, Book Club, and just like help me out with a couple bucks for over a year now. And someone put the seed of an idea to offer something for writers because I'm talking with writers a lot on YouTube. And I thought, that's a good idea. Thought about it for a couple weeks. And then today was like, we're doing this. We're doing this. So what I came up with was like a mastermind group. And I don't know if you guys have heard of mastermind groups, but I have had 2 or 3 attempts in the past that have lasted for varying amounts of time. And they're great. So what this is like a mix between a mastermind group and like a pick my brain sort of social hour. So having about an hour each month where we do a Zoom chat and we have either a pre-selected topic where I'm going to do extra brush up on research or just come with questions and be like, you know what? I have this thing in Scrivener that's really killing me. I can't format this one thing. And since I've done that in the past, that might be something that I can help with. Or StreamYard questions, for example. I'm doing the Sunday StreamYard questions. That is something that I can definitely help people out with like that. Social media questions, what else? Indie Pub, like all this stuff I've been doing for 9 years and it's just sort of, stuck in here. So this is my offering for the new tier on Patreon. So that's my exciting news for today. Okay, we'll go back to the books. Last bit of books. So there's a pile that I've been putting next to my bedroom door and looking at longingly and not having a place in February because February is definitely busy and I was overcommitting with the readathons. Looking at longingly because these books look really good and they could be research reads depending on which work I'm working on. But I can't figure out where to fit them in. So I just thought I'd put them up here because I would love other people to be excited about them too. For example, This Lovely City by Louise Hare. I got this book on my Chicago trip. It is a historical fiction. It's set in London in 1950, and it has to do with the Windrush generation. If anyone doesn't know what that is, it's the immigration from former colonial possessions, I would say, from new republics who used to be part of the British Empire. So people of color who came to London usually, or other major industrial centers in the UK to work on visas and to go to school, and were promised a lot of stuff and were very disillusioned in the coming decades after that. Kind of like civil rights movement, Jim Crow South, the sort of history moving on from seeing opportunities and then having dashed hopes. And that's kind of the image that I know of it so far. So I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm going to learn about. This is like centering around music. You can kind of see that it's like talking about jazz and a band which is not usually something that attracts me, but it looked really good in the bookstore. What can I say? And London, so Anglophile. Oh, we have a bot. Hide user. Go away. There we go. Okay, so that's one that I might dive into this month. What else? We've got any Chanel Clayton fans? So I was first notified of Chanel Clayton when I saw her Last Train to, it's going to be on here. I think I have the book, Last Train to Key West, because it was a Florida / hurricane / 1920s historical novel, and it looked really interesting because I read about some of that history. So this is another one that seems interesting. It's a different time period. It's a Gilded Age, New York City, and Cuba. So I'm interested in the links. So yeah, well, I don't know which cover Anita's referring to. I think it's probably this one. But yeah, historical fiction and Gilded Age, New York City, and Chanel Clayton, new historical fiction author. So this is also pulling my attention. Two more. We've got a master author, Susan Meisner, who I haven't read anything from, The Nature of Fragile Things. And I have this because I had Vera. They're both books that came out around the same time, a couple years ago, or last year maybe. What is time? About the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and the interesting, plausible histories of the characters who survived it. So, blurbs by Stephanie Dre, Greer McAllister, Lauren Willig, like big names. Susan Meisner. I need to read this author. And so this is why she's in that pile of looking longingly books. 1906 San Francisco is very interesting. The other book, Vera, talked a lot about the corruption in the city and the sort of demi-monde, if anyone is a fan of that term from Moulin Rouge, of San Francisco, and just like really interesting stuff that was period detail and really cool. So I'm looking forward to learning about more from a different person's perspective. And the last one is the one that might be the research book, which is The Cold Millions by Jess Walter. So I have not read Beautiful Ruins, which is like his breakout book that everyone loved. But this is about Barrett. This is about labor unions in the Pacific Northwest. And so that's what attracted my attention, because I thought that the time period and the subject matter might be really good for background research for my Chicago novel. I think it may be a decade off. I'm not sure if it's like the 30s or whatnot, but yes. And, he lives here. I think this is Eastern Washington. Yeah. So also really good. So those last four are the ones where I'm like, I will probably get distracted by one of those, but I don't know which. So Anita is apparently voting for the Cuba one based on the cover. If anyone else has opinions they would like to voice about which one I should read based on my box checklist or just based on their own preference, let me know. Because I'm pretty excited about that. I think, did I just do all that in a very short amount of time? I thought that was going to take forever. Let me make sure I covered everything. So while I'm pausing here to look over my outline, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let's see. So I talked about readathons. I talked about Storygraph. I said I have an ongoing StreamYard offering if anyone is curious about trying it out on a Sunday. Talked about the Irish Readathon definite reads, which are my two here with the very neat covers that satisfy all the prompts. I will pop those in the description in a moment. Other books that are Irish books. I don't know if anyone has read those. Definitely give me what vibe did you get from any of them? Do you think I would like them based on my previous commentary? Leftover books in February, which I'm going to finish. Checklist books, indie pub books that I'm maybe doing with Joe at Go Indie Now. We've got the new Patreon tour announcement, which is like the big thing because I just did that yesterday and this morning. And then the longingly looking books that are trying to pull me off track. So I can't read them all, and I'm just asking for a little help, a little nudge, a little nudge. What would it hurt? So that's it, actually, guys. I guess I'm on a short one today. Any other announcements? Well, okay. Do we have any questions? This was like ready to just say, if you're going to sign up for a Patreon book club and you want to read Where the Dead Sit Talking, that is a native read that we're going to be tackling in April. That would be fun. And that is where to check it out. It's in my description. And see, now I'm just going through all my banners. I guess that is it. Thank you for joining. Wow. I can't believe I went through that so quickly. Thank you for joining. Happy March. Welcome to a new month. Let's hope the world calms down and someone steps off and Ukraine gets back to living its best life. I'm off to the post office now to send some bookish mail and pick up a library book and be off on my best bookish life. I will see you on Friday for the productivity sprints, the first Friday, or on Sunday to talk Irish legends with Aoife and Shannon for the Patreon book chat, which is still public for everybody. So that's all I got for you guys. Have a lovely week and talk to you again soon.